moment of truth. Alright, so I'm ready to test this out. So the way it works is we're gonna create some vacuum over on this end to suck everything out through the system. Once I turn this on, this is already plugged in through the outlet valve here, or like the, I guess, yeah, outlet valve over here, which is currently shut. Vacuum is gonna be created here, and all the liquid's supposed to end up here. Once I turn this on, I'm gonna open the cap over here to actually let the air in, and so this is going to let the pressure pull the liquid into the liquid extractor in theory. So I'm hoping that's how it works. We're gonna see. I'm a bit scared to see what happens, but let's give it a try. So step one, we're gonna open the valve over here. There we go. You can see liquid kind of moves. Then we're gonna turn this on. And then as I do, I'm gonna see the pressure change over here, and then we're gonna have like inches of mercury measurement going. So there we go. Alright, so as you can see, it didn't pull everything up. The reason for that is probably my setup for the liquid is not ideal in this case. So right now, all the liquid is kind of getting stuck here, so I would probably need to add the inlet over on this end instead of there to be able to get that done, because essentially like all the liquid coming down is just basically stuck here, and it's not pulling anymore. So I'm gonna switch these over, put the inlet over on this side, and do the valve here as the air intake. So let's close this out. As you can see, we did pull quite a bit of liquid here, so that's a good thing. So I'm gonna pull this one out. The good news is nothing exploded, so I'm really happy about that. We're gonna take this cap out, put it over here. This over and here. There we go. Alright, so same principle is turn this on, I open this, and then it should start pulling the liquid out. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing again, just because I still have some liquid here, so I'm expecting that I should be able to pull the rest out from there. I did a good job at actually kind of pulling, but I still have some water stuck over on this end on the CPU block, which is kind of annoying. I don't know how to get it out. The problem is this loop is kind of a bit weird, so I have some parallel loops, and so it's not allowing to create enough vacuum, I guess, to get everything out. So I'm gonna try just see if I can press things. It's not able to fully pull the stuff, and here it's really stuck. So I'm gonna turn it off. I'm gonna do the same stuff again by putting it on, oops, wrong the wire, or on this side. Put this one here. There we go. Put it in, and then we're gonna try again. Hop and hop. Well, in this case, it's not really actually pulling anything. It's a bit of a problem. So I'm gonna try to find a way to blow the air out, see if I can actually push into it by just blowing on it. Alright, so I'm finding myself with the following problem: is water is stuck here. I can't get it out just because the air is actually taking the path of least resistance when it comes to getting out, and so therefore it's not actually coming through the rads over on this side. So in essence, I need to block this inlet here so that the air actually just goes through the main loop for the CPU. Normally that's the case when the pump pulls and pushes the air out this way, but with this here it does not. So I need to take this apart. Either way I have to take the pump out anyways, so I'm gonna do that, and it should be able to clear out the rest of the vacuum or the rest of the liquid out once that is done. So I'll take it apart and then we'll see how it goes. Alright, so I took out the upper one. I'm gonna stick my finger in there while this actually pulls, so the air in theory should go follow this loop over here through the rad, CPU, and then out this way. So in practice this should take care of the rest of the liquid that I have inside of the radiator at this point. So let's give that a try. Funny enough, the liquid's still stuck over on this end, but now just pulling from here. So I guess I need to block this entry here with my finger instead and see how that goes. There we go. And now we're pulling from the rack because the path of least resistance is now the direct loop. You can see all the liquid that was in the radiator is just coming right out. So the solution for this would be essentially to add additional valves somewhere in the loop, just to be able to let the system drain itself. So you can see like all the liquid's coming out now, that I can stick my finger in here and prevent it from actually taking this path. If I let it go like this, you can see it starts spinning again. The mechanical flow here will go around. I'm probably gonna have to repeat the process between these two. I still have liquid inside, so I might need to replug some of these and take out directly from the rad. For some reason I can't empty this one, and other than actually blowing directly into it, which is gonna be difficult because of this loop here, I'm not gonna be able to. I might be able to blow directly onto this one through here, which is not ideal either, but we'll see. I'll unplug and see if I can replug some of these to see exactly how to come up. You can see the liquid. All of this is basically the entirety of my loop right now. So, all right, so I switched the inlet, or like the exhaust port, from this one over to this one, so the air in practice should do something like this and pull out whatever remains in the CPU pipe. That's the idea. I don't know how the vacuum is gonna work in here. Again, this loop is a bit complex in terms of how I built it. I didn't put too much thought into it when I was building it, at least not in terms of filling it and emptying it. So functionally it works when the pump is running and just the liquid going through. But now when I have to essentially change the liquid, it's not going so well, just because of the number of different paths the air can take. So we're gonna try it out. The air can technically go through here. I removed the connector here for the pipe, and I'm hoping this is going to suck the rest of the liquid out this way. So let's see what happens. I'm gonna try the other one around. So I'm gonna take this out, put it back on the previous outlet. All right, so I'm hoping this way. So the air only has technically one way to go. Actually, this was kind of open, so I have created some extra strain or looseness on the system. So I'm hoping now with this as the main intake for air, it's actually gonna suck everything out of here. So let's give it a try. I'm having a problem with liquid being stuck here. I mean, I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to 100% empty it, but I would say this is pretty close to empty once I start feeling it out again. So right now, like, the next step for me is I need to remove the pump here along with the reservoir assembly, fix the pump, and then when I get to feel it, I am going to run distilled water into the entire system, let it clean it up, and then I'm gonna remove it using the same method here. So I would say like this is pretty successful. I probably removed, so this is I think a 3.5 liter jar. I got this from Canadian Tire, about 20 bucks, and I'm about halfway, a bit more than halfway, so it's probably like 2.5 liters of coolant. So I'm gonna have to use around the same amount of liquid here for refilling this with just distilled water, and then I'm gonna clean it up, do the same thing for the extraction with this, and then I'm gonna refill it with the actual cooling liquid for the PC. During this time, I'm gonna take this pump out, see what's happening with it, fix it. Hopefully it's just like some grime, leaving the impeller portion stuck, which was a problem before. And then once this is done, I'm gonna put everything back together. Alright, so I took the pump apart, and this pump is essentially just like an EKWB pump. I don't remember the model. So there's like a few components to it. This actually goes inside and holds all of this together. The impeller part goes in it, and this is typically the piece that gets stuck. So this piece here, essentially what happens is there's like gunk that comes into this internal section, and it prevents the entire thing from spinning. So you have to clean it out and kind of like help it by hand. Typically it's not advised to just run it without liquid, but just for the purpose of demonstration. It's hooked up to a just basic power supply, and then we're gonna see it spin once I turn it on. See, it needs some love there. There you go. So this one is still working. So based on my research, these pumps, they're industrial grade, so they're really hard to break. They will last a very long time. I just washed this with water a bit, and then when I help it a bit, it will start spinning again. So I just grab and clean it up a bit, make sure that all the smooth parts are, smooth and there's no friction in it. Same thing on the inside, just give it a wipe inside just to make sure that there's no crap, just preventing it from spinning. So this is the entire reason why the system stops spinning. So if I look at it right over here, this is where it gets stuck. So putting it back here inside, there's like a magnetic system on it, and then you can see a bit of love and it starts spinning. There we go. So now the next step is going to be just putting it all back together. So I'm just gonna try to do right here. So this part obviously goes around this end, so I'm just gonna finish cleaning this up a bit, make sure there's nothing that's gonna cause friction in it. Same thing on this side, make sure that nothing dirty is gonna come in. There you go. Put this back in. Got the O-ring that goes over here just to prevent anything from actually coming in or out of the system. There we go. And then I just need to unplug this and run the screw ring back in it. So something along these lines. There you go. So okay, so the EK pump we have is D5 PWM 938000001. Okay, so we got O-ring, everything. So I slide this back in this way, and then just screw that piece right back inside. Who knew it'd be this hard to screw? There you go. Push it back in a bit, and then screw it back inside. all the way. There we go. So in practice, I suppose the pump should be fixed. I'm gonna give it another try, make sure the inside is actually spinning. And again, it's not ideal to let the pump run without any liquid inside. We're gonna look inside and see that it is in fact spinning. Let's see if I can get a good angle here for the light. There you go. There you go. So you can see it spinning, and if I stop it, done. It's no longer spinning. So I think this should be solving my problem right now. I'm gonna refill the entire system and empty it back again. So I'm gonna run some distilled water to make sure that everything's clean and nice for the new refill. So I do have some extra water, or like a cooling liquid, to use that I'm going to be refilling with. All right, so the system is empty. I managed to take out pretty much all the liquid from the inside. I fixed the pump, so I took out the pump, just cleaned everything up, tested it was functional, just reinstalled everything. Now the system looks like it's completely empty at this point. There's probably some liquid inside, but I think we cleared out most of it, but judging by the glass jar here. Now what we're going to attempt is essentially refilling the system using vacuum, kind of like the same way as JayzTwoCents did on his video recently. That was kind of like a cool trick there. I thought about this a few years back, never tried it. So I got a pump just for this purpose and just save myself a few hours of bleeding the system. So the way it's going to work is essentially we're going to create a vacuum in the entire system with enough negative pressure that once we open the intake valve with the pipe inside of the bottle all the way down, it's going to fill out the entire system. Then we can close the valve and then pull out everything and start running the water. I'm going to run distilled water initially because I want to clean the system first before I do the full run. Now, one of the big concerns I have is my system is a bit different than what Jay has on his video, in that I do have a cylindrical reservoir as opposed to a distro plate, and my concern is, will this break with enough negative pressure once the vacuum gets created? I'm not really concerned about the piping collapsing. I don't think that's going to be a problem, but this, given the experiment I had the other day with the plexiglass container, I'm concerned that it might implode on itself once there's too much pressure, although it's a cylinder, so it might not. So that's the big question. So I'm gonna try to not put too much pressure in the system, or too much vacuum in this case. I do have a release valve here, which will allow me to control the pressure to a certain extent. And then once we have depressurized the system, we are going to close the valve to keep the vacuum inside, change the pipe over to the bottle, and then open it up to fill it up in one fell swoop. So that's kind of the idea here that we're trying to achieve. Is it gonna work? I guess we'll see. So here goes the experiment. So these are closed, this is open, just to create the vacuum here. Gauge is visible. So here we have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Maximum we can get probably with this one, as I tested the other day, is around 20. I don't think I'll go that high, but yeah, let's go. That was underwhelming. There probably wasn't as much, maybe there's a leak somewhere. I wasn't able to pressurize the system enough, I think, but I did get a good fill here. So what I'm gonna do is I do have the pump directly plugged into a power supply over on this end, so I'm gonna turn it on and see what happens here with the water. So it didn't fill anywhere close to the amount of liquid that we needed on this end. I think, you know, like the system was nowhere near pressurized as much as I wanted to. So I'm gonna have to probably empty this out, check for leaks, maybe do like a direct pressure intake, just to make sure that I actually pressurize without this unit here, so I can keep the pressure inside. I don't see any water leaks anywhere, so I think, you know, the problem is somewhere around here where I'm not able to keep the vacuum. And then I'm gonna try to go as high as I can, hopefully without breaking anything. Alright, second take. I've emptied the tank again, or most of it anyways. There's still some water, but I think we can live with that. I'm gonna probably need to increase the pressure to some extent, so I'm gonna try to go a bit higher. I'm really hoping it doesn't blow up, because that would really suck. Yeah, so the goal is depressurize, so create vacuum to around whatever I can, close the valve, switch that, and then turn the valve on to see if I can get all the liquid inside to fill up pretty much all of that with whatever water I have here. So this is 4 liters, roughly a gallon, a bit more than a gallon. The tank will take about the entire system takes about that much. So this is like a windshield washer bottle. It's a gallon, so I got about half. I'm guessing that's what I need to fill out the entire system. So here we go. I think I ended up grabbing too much air in here. I didn't have enough water in the tank, so, but it did do something, I guess. So now if I turn on the pump, let's see what I have in here. No, there's not enough water. So I kind of screwed up here. This pipe is nowhere near long enough. I do have enough pipe to do another run, so I'm gonna grab the other pipe over here and then redo essentially like the same thing. So I need to empty the system again and then run this again. So we're gonna have a third take. All right, take 3, I guess. Same principle. So I made this a lot longer so I can put it all the way down in the bottle. I think I kind of put myself in a bad situation when I didn't think about, you know, the length of the pipe here. So essentially I'm gonna run through the same process, which is essentially I'm gonna create a vacuum inside of the system, try to go as high as I can, and then once that is done, I'm gonna switch the valve off, put the pipe inside, and then let it fill up. So let's see how it goes. All right, let's see if it managed to do. Yay! So there was a bit of air in the system still, but I managed to get a lot of it through the system. And then this probably should be closed so I can actually have a closed loop. There we go. So this is just crap water, but it did fill a lot of it. Mostly the rads get filled up, but you can see the water is mostly clean at this point. So I'm gonna have to probably run this a couple more times before I refill the entire system up, but filling up the rest is going to go a lot smoother than before, I feel, with this method. So you can see, you know, when this runs, pressurizing it, I went to around 20 inches of mercury, -20 or whatever, you know, the measurement is. And then at that point I was able to fill it up. As you can see, the pump is spinning, so that pump got fixed. It was stuck, so it wasn't spinning. The mechanical flow meter here wasn't turning before, which was a problem. So now it is. So I can confirm that the method of filling it up with just vacuum, even with a complex system like this one, so just for reference, the pump comes here, goes through the rad. So I have two 480 mil rads connected through a center line over here that goes to the CPU, out of the CPU, then this is kind of like a parallel splitter, so like the water will go down into the second GPU, so it goes CPU, GPU 1, GPU 2, but it splits here so that the water can come in. So these are two parallel systems, and then it goes back in, and then we have the inlet or like the fill-up valve, or like the fill-up tube, and then this one is the return, and then we have two valves kind of like for, you know, maintenance here. So here I can basically clean up the system at this point, which is just going to be filling and draining the system with like distilled water at this point, where I'm gonna try to get like as clear liquid as possible before I start filling everything up again with the actual coolant. So I'm gonna do this a couple more times. I'm just gonna stop the pump here, which, as you can see, also creates a bit of a vacuum there. Once it starts running, it creates the vacuum. So if I open this one up, it will degas a bit. Typically that's the way to degas it here. Yeah, so the next step, again, I'm gonna try to get all this air out. There's a lot of bubbles, I'm guessing, you know, from all the shaking and stuff. Hopefully I'm able to remove all this air from there. If anything, I'll try to do like a degassing process or something from the top here. I need to see how that goes. So that's kind of like the process right now. So I'm gonna empty it again, and then I'm gonna fill it up again with however much liquid we need. Fill it. All right, doing another refill. So valve is open, everything else is closed. I cleaned out what was inside. So again, the goal is to put clean water, distilled water here. Just let it clean up the system before we go and try to fill everything up again. So same process. We're gonna go to as much as this can give me. Valve is open. Once it's going to be around, you know, a level, we're gonna close the valve, change the tube to the water, and then refill the system. As you can see, I still have a lot of water left inside, so I didn't fully clean it up. The problem is it's not strong enough to actually pull it out through here, so I'm gonna have to essentially change this tube over on this end and let it run at high pressure for a bit until it just pulls everything. Because essentially the problem is right now I'm not pulling all the liquid and the air out, but you do see that it's actually kind of like moving inside. It's maintaining, you know, 20 inches of mercury unit at this point, but having the liquid here is not gonna start flying by magic. I think gravity is stronger than what it is, but I am in the process of degassing this, so I guess it also serves as a degassing process as well if needed to remove like any air in the system. So once I close this, all these bubbles are going to increase in size, I believe. Let's see what happens. And just for funs, let's try again to see what happens where the liquid goes. So it will all come back down here, where you can see it still pulls like significant amount of liquid from there, and it's all gonna come back over to the reservoir. It's pulling it from here, from the not the reservoir, but like from the actual radiator. So the radiator is going to try to empty itself right now. So what we're gonna do after is just try to empty it again by connecting the inlet of the pump into this port here, and then with this port we are going to try to empty whatever remains in the system just with vacuum, because right now this is a closed loop, there's no air going inside. I'm at 20 inches of mercury, so I'm gonna do that right now. You can see it refills, everything goes back in. So I'm gonna do the opposite now. With the inlet being here, I'm gonna be able to suck in all the liquid. So I'm gonna close this valve over on this end, take out this portion here, and then remove this piece. You can see there's a bit of water there that came out, but it's part of the game, I guess. Just don't want a big leak of water here, so all the water goes back where it kind of was. Once it goes to minus 20 inches of mercury, I think I should start seeing the liquid go back in the jar, which is what we're trying to attempt. Also plumbing, good experimentation. We're gonna see what happens. So here, the jar needs some love, so it's not perfect. If I put my finger directly on the tube, I get at around 25. With the jar right now, there's a lot of leaks because I did this with like basically a cutting board and some silicone. Along with this, I hacked this over a holiday weekend, so everything's closed around my area. I cannot go and build something. And given that I typically do my designs on this computer, I don't have a computer to actually 3D print a lid that would actually fit the requirements here. Not sure it would work, given that 3D printing might have some, leakage there, but who knows. So we're gonna do this again. This time we're gonna let it run just on vacuum, so we're not gonna open the valve here, and we're gonna see what happens. You can see the liquid starts going out of the radiators here, and so the goal is I'm trying to get as much liquid out as possible, so that way when I do a full vacuum on the system, it's just gonna fill everything up to the top. Given that this is almost like the bottommost aside from this part of the system, it's actually a good thing. It's actually just pulling everything out through two of these. So I'm actually just pulling everything that's on these two radiators here, I think. I mean, I can't be certain, but I think I am pulling a fair amount of liquid out. If I open the valve, just to get some air. One of the problems here is I can see the liquid just going back and forth, and it's not letting everything pull just because of the split. Not sure why that is, but it's not sucking everything out. You can see the flow meter just spins like crazy when you add like the pressure will stop spinning once that is empty. But you can see like we're actually pulling again quite a bit of liquid here. I think this should be enough for our purpose right here. So I'm gonna plug this back right on this side, plug this one in, and then the expectation is I'm gonna try to do a refill and just a cleanup of the system, and then probably after that I'm gonna try to refill the entire thing with the actual liquid. So far the experiment has been pretty interesting, and I don't know whether it's successful or not, but I do believe it will save me a lot of time in filling and try to degas and remove like air bubbles from the system. Actually building this entire thing took me a lot more time than it would have, but when I have to do it again, I have better knowledge of what to expect, and it should go a lot easier that way. So now if you lose your parts in the computer, then that makes the entire process a lot more difficult. Got my part back, put it back inside where it's supposed to be. Now we're good to go. So again, we're gonna depressurize this to whatever vacuum I can get, and then I'm gonna fill it up to whatever water I can get from that distilled water tank, run the pump to clean the system, and then I'm gonna see if it's clear enough for me to do that. So I'm gonna go to -20 here, because that's all I can get right now with this tank. I'm keeping the tank just to make sure that water doesn't actually go inside the pump, because that would basically ruin it. I'm gonna try to go as low as I can, so I'll let it run for a bit, and then once I'm ready, I close the valve, pull this out quickly, and then put it in and open the valve back up. You can see how it fills up all the way. It's just essentially the entire system. I'm still expecting some drop here, but I feel like most of the system has filled up at this point. I close the valve just to make sure that the loop is closed, and then we'll run the pump. Let's see what comes out. There we go. So it didn't drop that much. Oh, actually it did drop quite a bit, but not as much as I would have expected. So you can see there's still some yellow from the orange liquid that we have. And by the way, this is what I'm running. So I'm running EK Cryofuel Solid Fire Orange Premix. I have a few liters left of this that I've had for a while. This is what I've been running on this system ever since, you know, I built it. Still not fully as clear as I want it to be, but at this point I think I'm gonna just do this process a couple more times in order to just clean the entire stuff out of the system and then be able to refill it. So what I'll do after is I'll do a couple more off camera just to have a clean run of water inside, just to have like a clean system inside, and then I will refill it with the EK Cryofuel Fire, whatever it's called. So we'll see how that goes. All right, so this is about ready to go. I think I've cleaned it enough that we're gonna be able to properly fill it out. So the goal is I'm gonna create a vacuum inside here around 20 inches of mercury, and then once that is set, I'm gonna put this so it stays at the bottom, because I've had a problem where the pipe curls up and then just sucks air. So this is going to be kind of like a weight as well as an intake. And then I'm gonna after I create the vacuum, I'm gonna close the valve, unplug this, put this in, drop it in, and then fill out with liquid. One thing I might actually just do is just put everything I have in here, and then I'll top it up. So there's roughly 2 liters of EK Cryofuel Solid Fire Orange Premix, which I've used on this system for roughly 2 years. This is the second time I actually do the liquid change. So this is it. All right, moment of truth. So everything's roughly clean. I've checked all the pipings. I don't believe there's like any leaks. I haven't heard any air when I was creating vacuum, and the vacuum is maintained around 20 when it runs, so I don't see any drop in the vacuum levels when this runs. I also have the pump plugged in, so once this is filled up, I'm just gonna run the pump for a while just to get the air out. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to bleed it, just like air bleed it with the pump. I don't know how that works. I need to do some research about it, but I'm gonna try to fill as much as possible of this system just with the vacuum. So that's the goal for this specific time. So here we go. And moment of truth. Well, we managed to fill it up quite a bit. I close this, so we're back to a closed loop. I'm gonna try to lose as little as possible from the cryofuel, but you can see it filled up quite nicely. I'm just gonna open this up, just give it a bit of rest so that the bubbles can come out at this point. Yeah, the system is refilled. So right now, you know, obviously normally I have the liquid all the way up here. One of the things I can try to do is degas it over on this end using that specific pipe, or even just fill it that way. I have this other tube here that I can use to fill it more, but so far, I mean, the goal is going to be just let the pump run for a while. But you can see it actually works. I filled out like probably, I would say 75% of the system, maybe 80%, and then the rest is just going to be getting the air out, and then kind of like keep on filling it a bit more with whatever I have left here. So there's, I would say, another 250, maybe 500 milliliters here that I need to fill up. So overall, the process of filling up the system with a vacuum pump is really quick. What took me a lot of time was essentially just clean up the mess that was left behind. If this was going from scratch and I was creating a vacuum, it would have taken 2 seconds to do that, plus the refill that's going to take me maybe 5 minutes more once I unplug that up from there. So there you have it. Now I just need to let this run, fix whatever else is wrong with the computer, and then I'm going to be good to go for tomorrow. Before we wrap things up, I want to go over a few thoughts and lessons that I learned along the way. This entire experiment started because my EKWB D5 pump stopped spinning. And in essence, I had to drain the system, take out the pump, fix it, reinstall it, and then refill the system. So a few weeks ago, after watching JayzTwoCents video on filling up a water cooling loop with a vacuum pump,
there's no way that worked that well. Did the whole system refill?
I think we're gonna find out. Let's close that off. Yeah, it's full.
Is it really?
Yeah, the pump's turning, look. Look, you can even see the red that was still in the rad and stuff coming out right there. Life just got so much easier.
I decided to give it a shot, and it's something that I wanted to try a few years back when I initially started this computer. There are 3 important things that I learned along the way during this project is number 1, do not use plexiglass or plastic containers, especially ones that are not cylindrical. They will implode and they will leave a mess everywhere. Thankfully, I didn't have any liquid into that container when I actually had it implode, so that saved me a lot of trouble. Number 2, vacuum does not beat gravity. So that means if you have a place for the liquid to pool or there's enough open space where the liquid can fall, the vacuum is not going to magically make gravity invert itself and the liquid's not gonna fall out or fall up out of the system, which is the problem that I initially had with my environment. And then number 3, and this happens actually before you build your system, is make sure you route and plan your routing for the piping correctly, especially the inlet and outlet ports. In this case, the emptying port for my computer was too complex and it prevented me from being able to extract the liquid correctly when it came to emptying the loop. So that was a real pain in the butt. Now, the second part of the video covers really the refilling process, or like the last part essentially. And that I would say went really well, even though I didn't have as much vacuum as I wanted to. So at around 20 inches of mercury, I was able to refill the system about 70 to 80% without any issues, and then all I had to do was run the pump and let it bubble out so that all the air bubbles would come out. So it took about 3 seconds to extract the air out of it, create a vacuum, and then opening the valve, it takes 2 seconds to fill everything up, which worked fantastically. That sums up pretty much everything that I had going in this project. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, make sure you like or dislike, leave a comment in the section below, and then subscribe to the channel. I'll be making videos like this every once in a while whenever I have something interesting to share about something techy. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.